Hello and welcome back to another video. I just finished painting the valve cover. I went ahead and used clear coat, high temperature, rated up to 550 degrees Fahrenheit. I did about 2-3 coats, and now we're gonna go and install the Pcv Grommet, part number 90480 18001. And also we can go ahead and install the spark tube seals. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I also ordered one final touch. This is the sticker for the 1FZ-FE. It goes right here. We will install this once the engine is fully assembled. This will be the last piece to go on. This is like cutting the ribbon. Pcv Grommet's in. You can go ahead and put a little bit of motor oil just to kind of help it go in there. But most part, if it's new, it goes in nice and smooth. We're not going to replace the actual PCV because I actually, that one right there has less than 2,000 miles. That one was pretty new, so we're just going to reuse that one. And again, we went ahead and degrease and power wash the valve cover. That's why it's all nice and clean. It's not greasy or anything like that. So for the spark tube seal, these are the OEM Toyota. Comes with the head gasket kit. They must go in this direction. So if you're looking at this way, this is the correct direction. If you install it this way, your spark plug tube will not go in here because it's not fitted in. So make sure you install it this way. When I was doing my 3.4 swap, I actually went and installed it the incorrect way, and that ended up costing me money because I had to order new spark plug tube seals. So make sure you put them the correct way. I will go ahead and put a little bit of RTV around the edges, like how I did to the front main seal, just because when I was taking them out, you can see that my screwdriver kind of pried some of the around the edges. So those RTV will kind of help compensate for that, because the old one, they were super hard in there. I'm also gonna use my bearing dry sealer, so it's gonna go just like this on top of it, and this will help drive the seal into the cavity. Just a little bit of RTV, not too much, not too little. Everyone should have a big hammer. I have 2 big hammers. This is what it should look like once it's installed. Here's the final look. Everything's nice and clean. Wipe off any residue. If you don't replace these seals, what happens is that the oil on the cylinder head will float into your spark plug. So whenever you take out your spark plug wire coils, and if you see oil in there, this is the reason why. So it's very important to replace these. Another beautiful day doing the axle repair. I went ahead and drained the differential oil, and then also went ahead and PB blast all the tie rod ends and the tie rods, and we'll tackle the axle seal. And again, I went ahead and used Marlin crawler about 2,500 miles ago when I did the first rebuild, when I first bought this vehicle. And the Marlin crawler is not preferred on these Land Cruiser, since the Land Cruiser is all-time wheel drive. So I decided to order the OEM one, and we're gonna use Toyota OEM axle seals. I'm only doing the driver's side because the passenger side isn't leaking yet, and hopefully it doesn't leak. So until then, we'll keep it Marlin crawler on that side and Toyota axle seals on this side. This right here is your oil squirter for the timing right here. It goes right here. It squirts oil to all these gears. And I was just reading the manual book the other day, and they're like, make sure you take this apart and blow through the hole and make sure that you can make sure that nothing's blocking it. And I took it out, and I found out that this little plastic piece was stuck at the tip of it. So I went ahead and got a little wire that was small enough to go in here and picked it out. So now it's nice and smooth, and oil can flow through it smoothly. So make sure you do that. You can just blow it through your mouth. Make sure it's clean first, and then blow through your mouth. Make sure that you can blow through it. So those little things that you gotta check out. And this thing's just held by 112 mil. So yesterday I didn't film any of my progress, but I went ahead and replaced the front axle seal on the driver's side, put a new OEM Toyota axle seals, repacked my old bearings because they were still new, and then I did went ahead and put new wipers in seal. And then I also, if you guys noticed, the brake dust shell, I went ahead and modified that. I cut that off, but I still kept the ring because you still need that ring as a spacer. So I'll post a photo of that. They do make a kit for that, but you can just cut your own one. So I did it on this side. Haven't done it on the passenger side yet. Once I do some stuff over there, I'll go ahead and do it. But one of the benefits of removing that is that when you go off-roading, you don't get rocks stuck between the dust shield and your calipers. So we did that, and then you can see my tie rods are removed right now. The front is the drag link, and then the rear is the tie rod. I went ahead and removed those, and then the tie rods were seized in it. I couldn't get the tie rods out, so I went ahead and put those on my Lexus, and then the Lexus ones are in much better shape, and I took off the Lexus one, and I'll show you guys that in a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up the diff. Haven't put fluid in there yet. And then, like I said earlier in my other videos, we're not gonna install the drag link and the tie rods until we put the oil pan in, just because it's a bit more easier and we have more room now. So this is the tie rod out of the Lexus. It has less rust and it's not bent. The one on the red Cruiser, the drag link was bent a little bit, but I went ahead and used my press and straightened it out. This one is off of the Lexus. So this one has already been cleaned up and installed with the new tie rod. These are the 555 brand, made in Japan. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this off a little bit and then go ahead and paint it. Just put some additional paint on it. One of the hardest issue that I had last night was that these tie rod, they were seized in here. The past owners or whoever had it before didn't use anti-seize, so they were seized in there. I sprayed it with PB Blaster. I was using I was holding the tie rod in with the one end, and I was trying to turn this rod and it wouldn't crack open. I was using a vice grip, and then I text Eric. I'm like, hey dude, how should I remove this? And he was like, use a pipe wrench. So I don't own a pipe wrench or have never used a pipe wrench before. This is what a pipe wrench is. And I've always seen these at the tool store. I always seen these, and I always thought to myself, man, like, how the heck is this supposed to give any grip? Because if you look at it, it's so loose. But the way these pipe wrench work are so amazing. The way the tooth are was that once you put this in there and once you start turning it, it actually grabs tension. Like, it makes its own tension. So you don't need this to be super tight. You just need this to be the size of the diameter, and once you start pressing on it, the harder you press one way, it bites more. So I didn't know that the pipe wrench does that. So this is my dad's. So I went to my dad's place, borrowed his pipe wrench, and I was able to get off this guy. This one came out with the pipe wrench. This one didn't come out with the pipe wrench this morning. So what I did was, I sprayed it with PB Blaster last night, and then I took it back to the vehicle, and I installed the tie rod in into the vehicle with the tie rod in like that, and I was using the pipe wrench, and the ball joint actually broke apart like this. Both ends. I did this side, and then I did the other side, and they all broke apart. So I was left with this piece, and this piece actually fits into the vice spreader because I was holding it like this when I was doing it, and this doesn't allow any good stability. So with that little ball joint now, I was able to hold like this, and I ended up using heat. So I ended up using my map heat pair here. So I torque it up for about one minute right here, and then I shot it with more PB Blaster. And then I used the pipe wrench along with a 2-foot breaker bar. So this is a 2-inch exhaust pipe from my 3.4 swap. So I went like that, and I was able to break it loose. It took a lot of weight. I would say maybe over 200 pounds of weight, 200 foot-pounds of weight. So I was able to crack it open, go back and forth. And once I started cracking open, it was just a matter of just spinning that tie rod out. And that's how I got it out, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and put some super clean on this, degrease it. This is the tie rod this is the one that's on the back. So the one that's on the front is called the drag link. and you can see the difference because this right here connects to the steering dampener. So the front, they call it this drag link, and it's much shorter. And then the rear is called the tie rods, and then these guys are called tie rods in. So I went ahead and measured already. My original one's 50 inches. The rear one is 50 inch from in to in. I don't measure the center, I measure the end to end. And then the front was about 44 and a half, just a little under a half. So right now this one's 44 and a half, but we'll do some fine tune adjustments once we get this on the vehicle. But for now, this is trash. I might keep this for souvenir. And then we'll go ahead and degrease it. I'm gonna degrease this one, pressure wash it, and then you can see some of the bite marks from the pipe wrench. And then I'll go ahead and put some black spray paint just to give another coat of protection. But that's pretty much it. That's how you take out the tie rods. And these are the bolts right here, the bolts that hold the clamps. So I'll go ahead and use my wire brush, clean these back up, and use that. And then these are the new tie rods. And again, I went ahead and put anti-seize on it. Put some anti-seize. Make sure you use anti-seize for these kind of application. You don't want them to seize up. And these are the 555 Japan. These are the non-greasable, but hey, they're supposed to be nice and sturdy. So I was planning to reuse my old ones. I was hoping that I could salvage my old tie rods and at least have them for trail spare. And the only one I was able to salvage was the passenger side drag link. So this goes on that one. So I was only able to salvage this one. So I'll probably go ahead and order me another set of tie rods, because if you guys off-road hardcore enough, you guys know that tie rods, and if you guys are IFS, ball joints are your weak points. So it's always good to have spares. So even though this one, even though the boots might not be good anymore, or even though it might not have a lot of grease, your old ones are always good for trail spare, because most of the time when you break them, you'll break them like where that ball come out. And if you have your old ones, these can at least get you back home or off the trails or back to the trailhead. So I recommend you guys keep your old ones as long as the threads are still good, and as long as the threads are still good over here. The drag link is nicely clean, and we went ahead and put some spray paint here, even on the tie rod end. One thing I like to do is make sure, I always like to zip tie driver's side. Anything that's driver's side that has driver or passenger, if I'm taking it apart, I always like to put a zip tie. So this, say that it's the driver's side, and it's just a zip tie. We'll just leave that on there forever. So this is our first coat of paint. We'll go ahead and put like 2-3 coats. Our timing chain kit is gonna be arriving in 3 days. I went ahead and cleaned the block already, acetone, brake clean, went through all the head bolts, head holds, cleaned them out. The head is ready to go. We'll go ahead and do one more wipe down before we install the head. And I decided I might as well just tackle the oil cooler right now. So we got the oil cooler out, and man, am I glad that I'm doing it. Look at all this gunk. All that is residue. Look at that, man. So the oil cooler is where the oil also gets cooled down by the coolant. So I'm glad we're gonna clean all this out and go from there. This is what it looks like, the oil cooler. And then you have this place here. So there's a gasket that you have to replace, and then also the main big gasket. So super interesting how it's done. We're gonna go have to clean all this off right here. Super dirty. The oil goes in here, so the oil flows in here, and then the coolant stays out here, and that's how it cools down. Much more bigger than the 3/4 oil cooler. 3/4 oil cooler is just like one little circular thing, but this thing is one big old oval piece. So let me go ahead and start doing some cleaning on this thing. And here's the front of it. You don't have to so this comes out like this. You don't have to remove these nuts yet until you remove this main plate off, but I went ahead and just unbolted all the nuts. So you have 2 4 nuts, and then 2 4 6 8 10 12. I think there's 10 bolts and 2 studs, and this is your oil pressure unit right here, goes in here. Degrease and pressure wash. Also went ahead and wire brushed the gasket area, and did a little bit on this side. Came out much better than it was before. So we're gonna go ahead and install the oil cooler in here first, torque that down to 12 foot-pound, and then the rest of the cover will get torqued down to 15 foot-pound on the block. And it looks amazing. And there's the final install. Oil cooler is complete. 2 new gasket for the oil cooler, and then 1 new gasket cover for the oil cooler. Looks pretty dang good. One last thing, don't forget to install your oil pressure sensor unit right here. If you don't have this, you won't have no oil pressure on your gauges. So go ahead and install that. You can just hand tight that down, and then this guy plugs right here. We'll do this last.